Hey, this is Mark. If you'll notice, we've got some cracks in this material on the inside of our doors. This has happened slowly over time, but lots and lots of cracks all the way up. They're all horizontal cracks. So we are going to take this door off and replace this inside material. There are a series of screws up here to take the hinge off, and then we're going to start disassembling the door, and we'll walk you through that process. So now that we have the door off the unit, there are two screws on either side here that'll take this bottom section off, and then we'll take the lock off and all the screws around the window, and then that will completely come off, and then we'll start stripping off this material. Now with the bottom off, we can see this styrofoam that fills the void between the two edges. And all we're gonna do is use a putty knife to get under here and release the adhesive, and then start chipping this off because it's already brittle. And we'll take it off piece by piece. So here we've used our putty knife to loosen the adhesive. So we're just peeling these pieces off little by little. There's a channel on this side and a channel on this side that we need to get it out from under, but basically we're going to work our way through the door and tear off pieces. So just be aware, you will probably have a piece of metal underneath where the latch went that holds your screen door to the exterior door. We'll be replacing that when we put the new interior on. So this is what it looks like when we've got all the interior material off, and it ends up chipping out like this. So work your way whichever direction. We started on the bottom, took us about a half an hour. The trickiest part is over here on the hinge side. They've got this extra piece of steel that goes around the door that the screws for the hinge screw into. And this material is actually glued in between these two and to this piece of steel here. So you'll have to run your putty knife against this piece of steel and underneath here because that's where it's glued in. And then you can just peel it out. On our other door, this window actually came out very easily. This one is not. There is a channel underneath here that is caulked to the exterior, and that seems to be holding fine. The other door did not, and this just fell out. Didn't break anything, but we ended up re-caulking it. This one seems to be stuck in pretty well, so we're not going to try to remove that. And actually on the other door, this piece of glass also came out, so we re-caulked that on the other door. This one seems solid, so we're not going to touch it. So now we're going to get the piece cut that's going to lay in here, and we'll show you that next. So this is the material that we're going to put on. It's a little bit thicker than the original material. So to cut the piece that we need, we have two nice straight edges that will line up over there. We'll come in about 1/8 of an inch on that side that happens to be the hinge side and the top. And then we'll go along this edge with a pencil and just mark the outer edge of this metal for the door. Then when we cut it, we'll just go in an extra 1/8 of an inch to give us some play. Now that we've marked and cut off the width, I'm going to take a belt sander and get this down to the line that we drew. And then these are the corners that come around the top, so I'm going to use the belt sander and follow that line. So here we have our piece cut. You can see the little border that we left all the way around. That's going to get stuffed underneath. We left this purposely long because as we learned from the first door, we're going to end up tapping this forward to get it under the lip in the front. And then we'll slice this off at the very end and put that bottom piece back on. Now in hindsight, because the other door's window actually came out, it made it easier to mark the hole where the window is. And originally we were not going to take that out because it seemed like it was caulked in pretty well, but upon further inspection we decided to take it out, not only to make cutting this hole easier, but some of the caulk actually did let loose, so it's always better to re-caulk it so it's weatherproof the way we want it to be. So the next step is to get this piece inside the lip of the door. And if you come around to this side where the hinge side is, remember we've got this piece of metal, thicker metal that the hinge screws go into, and there's just this tiny channel between these two pieces of metal. Now this material is a little bit thicker than the original factory material. So what we're going to do is take our belt sander and take some of this material off, not on this side, but on the flat side, so that it wedges in between these two pieces of metal. So we're basically going to just shave off a little bit as we come down this edge. And we'll show you that in just a minute. So we're going to take our belt sander and bevel this off a little bit so it's thinner here. This is the smooth side, so that goes against the foam. We don't want to touch the nice side, the pattern side. So we're just going to work our way down here and thin this out a little bit so it slides in between those two pieces of metal. You can see I'm scraping off some of this interior material so this edge is a little bit thinner. So you can see we've taken some material off. I want this to be a little bit thinner. You have to go in between those two pieces of metal, so we're going to make another pass, take a little more material off this edge. So now to fit it in, we're going to start wedging this in between those two pieces of metal. We can't go all the way up because we've got a lip up here to deal with too. So once we get it in that side, we're actually going to flex this and squish it in this side underneath this lip, and then tap this forward to get it underneath the top lip. So we've got this started in here. It's starting to tuck in a little bit, but it's tight. So we're using a backing board here so we don't damage this material. And we're just tapping it and working our way top to bottom to get that side pushed in between those two pieces of metal. So we've got this edge in pretty much where we want it to be. What we're going to do now is actually bow this up in the middle and start stuffing this side inside the piece of metal over here. So we've got our piece in on both sides here. We've got this gap that we need to push it up into the top. So I'm going to be down here with our little backing board and our hammer, and I'm going to be tapping it toward the top as Barb tucks it underneath that metal flange. So our next steps, we've got this tucked under the top, tapped as far as it'll go. Got a nice gap here and over here, so everything seems to be fitting underneath the metal fine. So our next step now is we're going to draw a line from the very bottom of this to the bottom of this and cut it off because that bottom plate fits on there. Then we're going to flip it over, draw the outline of the window and get that cut out. So now we have the bottom edge cut flush the way we need it to be. We've got the opening cut for the door handle and the hole for the window cut. So the only thing we have left now to reassemble the door is to put the window in. So there's a channel that goes around the outside that we will put a bead of caulk in, and that's what lays against the exterior of the door. And then this channel right here, we'll put a bead, that's where the window sits down in there. So we're gonna put our caulk in and lay these pieces together. So we've got the window put in. You can see there's a little squeeze out. This is clear caulk, goes on white, dry as clear. So we're just going to clean up the squeeze out, and then we can put the door on. So we got the door hung back up. If you look real close, you can see the caulk is still white and it hasn't cured yet, but it started to rain, so we had to put the awning out to give it some protection while it cured. And we're all done. So we did replace the interior of both of the entry doors that we have in our Fuzion, and it looks fantastic. The pebbly pattern and feel is just like the old material, but it's thicker. When we first did the rear door, we spent 3 days just trying to figure out the right way to go about things and make all the cuts and just be super careful. The front door, we had that stripped in about a half an hour, and we could have done it all in one day, probably in about 6 hours time, beginning to end. But it was raining yesterday, so we finished it up today with about an hour's worth of work, caulking it and mounting it back on again. So it can be done in one day, a door per day if you want to be aggressive about it. But if you're not in a hurry, take your time. Make sure you do the cuts right. Make sure you have everything on right side up. And there you go.